He punched through the 300-meter-thick door of the Ministry of Defense. Even the non-alloy wall that can withstand a nuclear blast was blasted with a large hole. He is like a devil emerging from hell. He can decapitate numerous special agents with a wave of his hand. And his eyes gradually became cold, like ice windows that had existed for thousands of years. The young man fought against the entire military force of the country on his own. Countless soldiers died miserably at his feet. He just said, "I'm sorry." The commander ordered to open fire. The tank unit unleashed a barrage of shells towards him. And he simply lightly stepped forward. The entire plane began to shake violently. Giant rocks were uprooted from the ground. The giant rocks formed a towering wall to block tank shells for him. He did all this only because he harbored deep hatred towards humanity. He existed only to eliminate humanity. At the moment of the Big Bang, some cosmic solid particles aggregated. During their motion, they continuously absorbed nearby cosmic particles. The cosmic particles eventually coalesced into a sphere, which is the Earth. The moment when the Earth fully formed and was illuminated by sunlight, consciousness arose on this planet. It is known as Earth consciousness. It is the fish swimming in the rivers. It is the eagle soaring in the sky. It is the ant crawling on the ground. Sometimes, he is a lonely dragon. Sometimes he is an erupting volcano. Melting glaciers. Plants persisting in the snow. In the long river of time, he has experienced countless deaths. And then countless times reborn in the endless cycle of life and death. He has existed in different forms of matter. He has his own thoughts. And retains the memories of all his past lives. Billions of years of lonely reincarnation, who can understand? Just then a gunshot rang out. The bullet hit him. He fell to the ground with one breath. He looked at the approaching hunter, and thought to himself that he had been caught by them once again. In his billions of years of memories, they were the only species that made him feel hostility. That's right, humans. He had died countless times, sometimes because his life had come to an end. Sometimes he was eaten by even more powerful individuals. But that was just the natural cycle of life, the law of the food chain. However, humans were a different case among all species. They would deprive life because of interests that had nothing to do with survival. And their methods of killing were endless. The number of species dying at their hands was increasing. This was not the first time. In his long cycle of life and death, he had died at the hands of humans thousands of times. Even he, who was completely numb to life, gradually developed a hatred towards the human species. Killing at dusk made humans seem so heartless. Yet, he was so desolate. The dandelion seeds blowing in the wind beside him seemed to symbolize infinite freedom for him. But it also seemed to symbolize his destiny. Ultimately, he did not know where they would drift off to. In countless rebirths, he did not know what he would become in the next life. He only hoped that he would not become the humans he had grown to hate. Or maybe just let me be like this. Die. I don't want to be reborn again. I'm so tired. But I am willing to let life's cycle begin again. He felt a sharp pain all over his body. In his long past life, he had never experienced such pain. He did not know how long it passed. He felt like he was breaking free from a surrounding membrane. He only felt extreme cold, yet he sensed a warm touch contrasting with the cold. And in this life, it seemed like God was playing a joke on him. Even though his vision was still blurry right after birth, he realized he was reborn as the one species he least wanted to be the only existence he felt hostility from. Human. And in this life as a human, he was reborn with his own name for the first time. Gaia. He has existed for 4.5 billion years. In each life, he has existed as a different species or form of matter. He carries memories of billions of years, endlessly dying and being reborn in the river of time. Who can understand the loneliness of billions of years of reincarnation? The identity of being reborn in this life is the species he least wants to become. It is the species that fills him with hostility and hatred. He has died at the hands of this species thousands of times. humans. And in this life, he is reborn as a human. For the first time, he has a name. Gaia. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, 6 years have passed. He gradually understands human life. But to him, human life is truly complex. He doesn't understand why there are distinctions between nations and races when humans are all the same species. Humans are really incomprehensible. Gaia has not spoken a word since birth. He has never cried, laughed, or expressed any emotion. He always wears a cynical expression. His mother took him to see a doctor. However, he was diagnosed with mental health issues by the doctor. His mother was instantly furious upon hearing this. It undoubtedly meant that the doctor was saying her child had mental issues. Anyone would get angry in this situation. And yet Gaia still showed no emotional response. He stood by, looking on indifferently. Gaia's mother shouted, "Wendy is also a pitiful person. Her parents were killed due to wars caused by human greed when she was young. Not long after, she lost her husband in another war. But as such a pitiful person, she was labeled by some superstitious villagers in the village as a star of misfortune, blamed for causing the deaths of her parents and husband. She lost everything, and for her, this world was just too cruel. She had completely lost the desire to live. However, the birth of Gaia gave her a spiritual pillar to continue living. Despite enduring the peculiar looks of others, who believed she would surely bring harm to her own child, she still lived optimistically. She gave all her love to Gaia, because Gaia was her everything. Even though her child remained indifferent towards her, she would say every day to Gaia, "I love you more than 3,000. Although Gaia did not understand the meaning of "I love you" in human terms, he found the feeling to be warm and did not dislike it. Perhaps this is the greatness of motherly love. While Wendy slept soundly, he was wide awake. He felt that he had lived enough in this life, and it was time to be reborn, to free himself from his hatred towards his human identity. In the late night, he set out on the road to seek death. It was at this moment that Gaia sensed a strange change within himself. Before long, 3 police officers were chasing a fugitive. When they caught up to the fugitive, something eerie unfolded before them. They saw Gaia standing on a streetlight under the moonlight, coldly observing the internal strife among humans. The police officers and the fugitive were stunned. How did this child climb up a 15-meter-high lamppost? Gaia thought to himself, "Humans in adult bodies. They are just the right subjects to test the strange changes happening to me." The police officers scolded Gaia to come down the same way he climbed up, as it was too dangerous up there. As soon as they finished speaking, Gaia moved, but his actions were enough to scare anyone. Gaia discovered the changes in his body. That is creature ability derivation. It means that he can derive the uniqueness of all his past life individual creatures. For example, the jumping ability of a frog. Now he has confirmed it. Next is to test if the derivation ability can be combined. First is the electric eel's bioelectricity, adding the agility of a cheetah. Gaia charging at them like a cheetah cloaked in lightning. He frightened the fat police into pulling out a gun. But in an instant, Gaia was already in front of him. Plus the immense power of dragon. The combination of the creature ability derivations of electric eel, cheetah, and dragon together. He moves at a speed so fast that it is difficult to keep up with even with the naked eye. And the terrifying power to surpass its own individuality. This feeling is a feeling he has never experienced before. So far, all life forms that he has reborn have their unique abilities as long as he imagines them. He doesn't know what derivation ability is all about. But when he uses the derivation ability, he can clearly feel that this life is the endpoint of all reincarnations. The old policeman has changed from a state of terror to anger. Who are you? As a human reborn in this life, for the first time in 6 years, Gaia has experienced emotional fluctuations as a human. He slowly turned around, revealing a meaningful smile. He is happy. It seems that in this life, I can finally rest in peace. How much is 1,000 to 7? That's a good question. The 6-year-old child is determined to seek death. Gaia, reborn as a human in this life, discovers that he can derive the unique abilities of all previous lifeform individuals. For example, the jumping ability of the frog, the bioelectricity of the electric eel, the speed of the cheetah, added to the terrifying power of the dragon. Combine the abilities of electric eel, cheetah, and dragon together. Gaia is like a cheetah cloaked in lightning, swift as lightning, bursting through speeds visible to the naked eye, instantly bursting a police officer. In that instant, making several adults behind him realize the terrifying nature of this child before their eyes. Not sure what influence Gaia is under. Unconsciously saying what 1000 to 7 equals. Faced with this eerie child with such terrifying abilities, Officer Aaron put all his strength into a surprise punch, catching Gaia off guard, and easily knocking Gaia down. This really hurts. However, it also made him realize that without consciously maintaining awareness, creature ability derivation would fail. But being hit by a full-force punch from an adult in his 6-year-old body is just painful. It seems that his body is quite strong. Gaia then turned around and cast a cold glance. Police Aaron saw that he was completely fine. He was trembling with fear. What's wrong with this little brat? He's simply a monster. But the policeman's mental toughness helped him overcome his fear. He aimed at the back of Gaia's head and delivered another powerful punch. But this time it felt like hitting a stone slab. His hand was broken. It turned out that Gaia had activated the creature ability derivation, which was turtle shell. Next, it was the tremendous strength of the chimpanzee. In Gaia's life memories spanning billions of years, he mostly existed in the form of animals. That's why he only follows 2 rules in the natural law, which are the law of the jungle and survival of the fittest. Faced with species that have killed themselves thousands of times, he has no trace of compassion. As for human nature, he doesn't have it now, only animal nature, and it is the instinct of his remaining years. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. Gaia was hit by a bullet again. He looked at the person who fired the gun. Gaia thought she was still being careless. After all, she was killed by human weapons in her previous life. Turtle Shell unexpectedly could not stop the bullets from the humans. Gaia, lying on the ground, had fallen into a coma. The shooter turned out not to be a police officer, but the fugitive. Just like at the beginning, he fled in terror. The young officer wanted to pursue but ultimately gave up, prioritizing saving lives. He must now quickly take the captain and the critically wounded team member to the hospital. Gaia was left behind. He was still alive, using all his strength to turn over. His mind was now blank with no thoughts. All he felt was pain. It was really too painful. His internal organs were also ruptured. That familiar sense of imminent death swept over him once again. In his past life, he died watching the sunset. In this life, he would die watching the sunrise. It seems that this time, I can truly depart for good. In this moment, he felt happy. Finally, he could break free from the endless cycle of reincarnation. He gazed at the vast sky, sensing an unprecedented feeling of freedom. Farewell to my short 6-year life. A 6-year-old boy single-mindedly seeking death. Now, he has got his wish fulfilled. In the previous life, he died watching the sunset. In this life, he will die watching the sunrise. However, at this moment, he is very happy because in this life, he can feel it is the final destination of all reincarnations. He can finally break free from endless cycle of life and death. He looks at the boundless sky, feeling an unprecedented sense of freedom. Goodbye. I am only 6 years old in this lifetime. God seemed to be playing a joke on him again. Gaia's body continued to twist and convulse. The gunshot wounds on his body were healing at a visible rate. He suddenly spit out his necrotic organs. It turned out to be the body's survival instinct. He derived the regeneration ability of sea cucumbers. But unfortunately, this was not good for him. He couldn't die even if he wanted to. He had to endure the torment of time. This was not his will at all. He didn't know what the meaning of his existence was. But he watched as this body possessed this incredible ability. He seemed to find it somewhat interesting now. Well, since God won't let me die, then I'll do something for this world. At this point, an extreme idea formed in Gaia's mind. Anyway, that's just how my existence is. But at this moment, Gaia heard someone calling his name. And the source of the voice was his mother, Wendy, shouting Gaia's name like crazy. The old man said, "See, I told you she's an unlucky star from heaven. Now even the child is cursed." Everyone just watched indifferently, showing no intention of helping at all. They all knew. It's a typical reaction for a mother who has lost her child. But still, no one helped. And Gaia heard her mother crying out. He had no reaction. And he had no emotional response as a human being. He turned around and left. The sparrow standing on the scarecrow stared at Gaia, expressing a sense of unhappiness. The next moment, Gaia pounced on the sparrow like a wild cat catching its prey. This is his 1000th reincarnation as a carnivorous animal's instinctive hunting behavior. His ideas are very simple. Although he is not yet an adult, self-reliance seems possible. So he had no reason to stay with her. Do you think his behavior is very heartless and indifferent? But if you think from the perspective of animal instincts, you will understand. For animals, especially wild animals, they will leave their mothers after growing up. One is to avoid competition and allow the mother to better protect herself. Second is to allow the mother to better feed their siblings. So he must leave and fend for himself alone. For example, lions and tigers. In terms of human nature, he is cruel and lacks humanity. But in terms of his animal instincts, he is kind. Wendy, who has lost her loved ones again, knelt on the ground crying loudly. It was Gaia's 4th day of living alone outside, and he was very weak. He didn't take a few more steps in the end. He fell down after a few steps. His whole body was burning up. It seemed like there was a fireball inside him. He started to ponder. Could it be a problem with the food he had eaten? In his understanding, omnivores could eat anything. So, in these 4 days, he eats sparrows, snakes, rabbits, and so on. But he doesn't understand what went wrong. Although he has billions of years of survival experience, he feels a strange sensation in his body. His body is sometimes hot, and sometimes cold. However, if he could die like this, he would have no regrets. This might be a kind of relief for him. It was at this moment that a figure appeared in his blurred vision. Never underestimate the determination of a mother who has lost her child. No matter how much time has passed, even if it's 4 days, or 4 years, or even 40 years, she will never give up. No matter what price she has to pay in the process, she will find you. Gaia, being hugged like this by her, somehow gained a hint of human emotion. Just a moment ago, she felt like she was about to die. Now, she suddenly feels energized. Gaia really wants to eat the food made by this human. But she has been crying all along. It's really annoying. How long does she have to cry? Moreover, Gaia would rather Wendy smile than cry. So for the first time since she was born, Gaia spoke a sentence. It is also in that human language that he does not understand the meaning of. It is the same sentence that Wendy has been smiling and saying to Gaia all along. I love you more than 3,000, but the result is the opposite of what Gaia expects. The woman in front of me not only did not stop, but cried even harder. He was already feeling uncomfortable. He felt even more uncomfortable when she cried like this. Humans are really troublesome. However, this also gave him a different kind of feeling. It's a feeling that he has never experienced in billions of years of life being in her arms. It's so warm. And today's sunset seems especially beautiful. So how long is this woman going to cry for? So annoying, my head hurts. The boy ran away from home. He lived alone in the wilderness for 4 days. Just as he sighed that he could finally die completely, his mother Wendy found him. And it was so warm in her arms, looking at the woman in front of him caring so much for him. Gaia suddenly felt a hint of human emotion in his eyes. He decided to stay temporarily. until he learned the ways of human life and left again. That evening at the police station, the fugitive recounted the events of that night. Gaia possessed mysterious abilities, and the fact that he killed Fat Police. He confessed to shooting the monster kid with a gun to save Police Aaron. However, Police Aaron, who almost got choked to death by Gaia and witnessed everything on the scene, twisted the truth. He said the fugitive grabbed the police officer's sidearm and shot Fat Police in an attempt to escape. There was no monster kid involved at all. The fugitive doesn't understand why he said that. He's trying to frame himself. No matter how the fugitive defends himself, everyone believes that what Police Aaron says is the truth. After all, who would believe a fugitive? Police Aaron looks at the fugitive with a sinister expression. He already has a crazy plan in mind. He just wants to quickly close the case and achieve his own performance. Become the next sheriff. Ever since that day, Wendy never lets go of Gaia's hand, afraid that Gaia will get lost again. Gaia was also completely influenced by the woman in front of her. He does not resent anything that Wendy does to him. Gaia is bullied by classmates at school. Wendy threatened them that if they bully Gaia again, she will break their fingers directly. She even scolded the teacher harshly. The neighbor said Gaia has never spoken a word from childhood to adulthood. Maybe there is a problem with her brain. Wendy will rage and argue with him, and let the old lady stop spreading rumors at will. If she has lived long enough, she would die soon. In order to live a better life, Wendy sets up a stall in crowded places every day. However, she has to outwit the urban management officers every time. Gaia does not understand why there are so many unknown social norms in human society. Wendy struggles every day for her child and everything in the world. This may be the inherent weakness of women. Being a mother makes them strong. A mother's cry reveals so much sorrow. Time passed without anyone knowing how long. Gaia gradually became familiar with the human body and way of life. Gaia thought it was time to prepare to leave this woman. But he faced Wendy as she reached out her hand. He looked at Wendy's kind face. Gaia still reached out her own hand to be held by her, although Wendy's hand was warm and rough too. Gaia knew that she was working so hard for herself to live a better life. He hesitated. Gaia at this moment has made a decision that has been lingering by her side all along. He wants to live an ordinary life with the woman in front of him, always guarding Wendy. Suddenly a gust of wind blows by. It blows away the chrysanthemum in Wendy's hair. The chrysanthemum is picked up by a man. This flower-picking man is none other than Police Aaron. Gaia, unaware that danger has set sights on him. Finally found you, monster kid. No one knows what Aaron wants to do. The boy has existed for 4.5 billion years. He has experienced countless cycles of birth and death, reincarnating as different species in each life. In every life, he wishes to completely die. He does not want to be reborn through reincarnation anymore. Who can understand the loneliness of billions of years of reincarnation? But in this life, he was born as a human. He has developed human emotions. He no longer wants to die, because this caring woman has become his mother. He wants to always protect Wendy. For this, Gaia gave up the law of survival of the wild beasts. 6 years have passed. Gaia has grown a lot. She has also gradually become familiar with the survival rules of human society. The development and changes in the neighborhood have been rapid as well. The roads have widened, and the buildings have become taller. He has been quite happy in these years. But whenever he goes home and passes by the factory with its emissions of waste gases and wastewater, he feels a kind of indescribable discomfort in his heart. He doesn't know if this is good or bad. And Wendy got sick. He looked at his mom, who was running a high fever. Gaia regretted it. She regretted not stopping her from eating that thing the day before yesterday. Wendy actually cooked a fish the day before yesterday. Gaia took a bite and instinctively spat it out. After billions of years, as a carnivorous animal, reincarnation made him realize that this fish was problematic. Wendy scolded him. Why aren't you eating? Being picky about expensive food is not good. But Gaia said sternly, I'm not eating. She saw the child not eating the fish she had made herself. She even thought there was something wrong with her cooking skills. She ate all the fish angrily by herself. Stop eating, stop eating. If you don't eat, the one who loses out is you. Since then, Wendy has been running a high fever. Gaia also thoughtfully helped her change the towel to reduce her temperature. Wendy was very relieved. She also told Gaia not to worry, she would be fine. Shortly after, she asked Gaia to hurry up and go to school. Don't be late. But before Gaia left the house, Wendy called out to him. Be careful on the way, son. Gaia, who had left home, did not go to school. Instead, he set up a stall on the street to sell apples. He wanted to earn some money to take Wendy to see a doctor. Suddenly, a man appeared in front of Gaia. He picked up an apple and started eating without asking for the price. Gaia thought that what was meant to happen had happened. Humans, with their different personalities, have established laws and rules to suppress excessive individuality and maintain society. And Gaia violated the most fundamental rule that humans should never violate 6 years ago. That is murder. The person across from you is Police Aaron, who was almost choked to death by Gaia back then, and he is now the sheriff. Sheriff Aaron said, I was planning to arrest you directly before, but later I wanted to see how this monster like you has grown. And asked, why does Gaia want to imitate humans? Then he ordered his team members to arrest him. Gaia still remained silent as before. He slandered Gaia as a spy and said with a sinister look, if you are a spy, then your mother is also a spy. I have already sent someone to capture her. Upon hearing this, Gaia's pupils suddenly dilated. This had touched his bottom line as Gaia showed some emotions. Sheriff Aaron continued to provoke him. I heard your mother is sick. Interrogation can be tough. I wonder if your mother can handle it. As soon as the words fell, Gaia began to derive creature ability. Sheriff Aaron saw the situation and instructed the team members to step back. Otherwise, people might die. The team members looked stunned, but they did as they were told. Gaia derived the power of the dragon. He used force to break the handcuffs directly. The entire street shattered along with it. Then he derived the ability of a cheetah. He ran home like the wind. Detective Aaron revealed a distant smile of conspiracy. Other police officers were shocked at the sight. What's going on with that kid? Police Aaron said solemnly. Don't you understand yet? That child is not a mere mortal, but a monster. Gaia, running back home, had tears in her eyes. Mother, please make sure you're safe. A 12-year-old boy sells apples on the street to earn money to take his mother to see a doctor, but unexpectedly, he is arrested by a group of police officers. The sheriff even slandered his mother as a spy and sent people to capture her. This completely touches on his bottom line. Gaia starts to derive creature ability. The terrifying power of the dragon breaks through the hand. The aftermath of the power directly shatters the road surface. Then he derives the speed of a cheetah. He runs like the wind. He crosses a stream. He jumps over the trees. Using the electrical power of an electric eel, combined with the leaping ability of a kangaroo. He instantly rushes back home. Mom, you must be okay. Before long, Gaia descends like an eagle from the sky. The sound of landing. He attracts the attention of the police. He has just landed. Everyone is curious about where this child came from. The man at the front asks, Are you a child of this family? Gaia nodded without saying anything. It was confirmed that Gaia was also the target of this arrest. The crowd surrounded Gaia with cold faces, wanting to take him away, just as Gaia was about to resist. Wendy, who was sick in the room, heard the commotion and opened the door. She asked what was happening. When she saw a group of strangers gathered around her son, she also heard them say they were going to take Gaia away. Weakly, she tottered out the door and saw the hostile looks in the eyes of these strangers. The thought of protecting her son instantly came to her mind. Suddenly she shouted loudly, "Neighbors! Someone is being kidnapped!" Even though she shouted loudly, she did not receive any response. Then, someone stepped forward and slapped her to make her stop shouting. Gaia saw the moment her mother was being hit. Gaia's eyes became dull. People are called human because they have 7 emotions, 6 desires, 5 senses, and 6 consciousnesses. But once the anger clouds the mind, the rational bowstring will break. So welcome them. It's just a heartless beast. After a burst of wailing, the surrounding area was already littered with corpses. Wendy was shocked to see this scene and stood frozen in place. She looked at her son in the distance and cried, "Gaia!" The beast like Gaia slowly turned around. Seeing his crying mother, he slowly regained his human rationality. Gaia now realized that he had caused trouble again. Suddenly, a jeep drove up and witnessed the scene of corpses scattered everywhere. Sheriff Aaron showed a sinister smile, while his teammates were already scared out of their wits. Turning around, he exclaimed loudly, "See that? I told you he's a monster." Hearing his voice, Gaia thought, "Might as well go along with it." In any case, the meaning of one's existence is always like this. Just as they were about to make a move, the figure of the mother shielded Gaia from behind. The mother shouted, "I'm the one who killed him. If you want to catch someone, catch me. My child has done nothing wrong." The man stood still in a daze. "I didn't expect Wendy to be so weak that she couldn't even swallow food." She stood up as if crazy. Gaia looked at her mother in front of her. Tears flowed from her eyes without her realizing it. He only felt a deep pain in his heart. Really painful. Gaia, in this lifetime as a human, felt this. For the first time in 12 years, he shed tears. He recalled the past with his mother. He asked Wendy why there were fights and quarrels with the neighbors every day. Wendy replied, "To protect my Gaia." This was the first time he truly understood the meaning of protection and the significance of family love. A mother is not afraid of death if it means protecting herself. He became even more certain about his mother's love for him. He watched the woman yelling in front of him. Sheriff Aaron didn't hesitate at all. He loaded his gun without hesitation, aimed at Wendy, and fired. Gaia instantly appeared in front of her mother. The defensibility of the snapping turtle resisted the bullets. This time it was his turn to protect his mother. Sheriff Aaron burst into insane laughter. "See? He is a monster." Then let the teammates shoot at his mother together. His mother is his weakness. Otherwise, they will end up like the teammates in front. They will be killed by monsters. The death will be gruesome. The team members broke out in a cold sweat immediately. Then they raised their guns. They shot wildly at Gaia and her son. In the split second the bullets were fired, Gaia inherited the eyes of an eagle. He caught the flying bullets barehanded and blocked them. Next step is to increase defense. He combines the abilities of snapping turtle, armadillo, and scaly-horned gastropod snail. He uses his body to block the bullets coming towards him. He is protecting his mother behind him. After firing a round of bullets, they looked on in horror at the scene. The boy in front only has superficial wounds. Wendy looks at Gaia standing in front of her. She looks at his injured body. She can no longer bear to see her child hurt. But they quickly recovered and prepared for another round of shooting. Just as Gaia was preparing to face the second attack, a figure stood in front of Gaia. "Yes, mother." Wendy hugged Gaia tightly. "It's such a pity. My dear Gaia, your mother can no longer be with you." The bullet mercilessly shot into Wendy's body. Before Gaia could react, Wendy had already fallen to the ground. Gaia, looking at Wendy who had fallen to the ground, spoke for the first time, saying, "Mom." Listening to the sound of Gaia calling out, "Mom," Wendy smiled with the last of her strength, trying to touch Gaia's face with her hand. The warm sensation of the touch reached Gaia's skin. just like how a mother soothes her child to sleep every day. Wipe away Gaia's tears. Son, don't cry. You must live well. He doesn't know why God is playing tricks on him like this. Why let this warm woman come into his life? And why cruelly take away his beloved one? Gaia realized that she could never coexist with humans in the end. He looked at Wendy's body. This time, he was thoroughly enraged. The idea of eradicating humans took root firmly in his mind. He clenched his fists.